Okay, we are now on to analytical writing. So the purpose of analytical writing is to use evidence to derive meaning. So you'll be taking quotes and examples from a text and analyzing them to find out how audiences are positioned to think and feel and react. Usually we have a pretty rigid structure for analytical writing, so it's a lot different in that way to creative writing where we do have more flexibility. So you've got your introduction, your body paragraphs, and your conclusion. Usually you've got 3 body paragraphs, and you have a formal sort of tone and style with your language. And the aim is to use your analysis to prove an argument. So it does have some sort of parallels with persuasive writing, but it's less emotional than that. It's more formal. So oftentimes we think of pathos in our persuasive writing, which is bringing in our emotions. Ethos, pathos, and logos. I guess the analytical writing is about the logos aspect with logic and reason to support what we are arguing. Where you'll find it, this, of course, is your external exam, what it all comes down to at the end of year 12, and you've probably already done analytical writing in year 11 to build up towards this as well. Okay, reading the whole book. I've already mentioned a few benefits, but here are a few more to try and convince you of the value of reading the whole thing. So having all of the facts, being able to understand the relationships, the character development, just the time period and everything, identifying the motives and the callbacks, finding the quotes that aren't talked about in class or that you can't find online. So one thing that I was taught at school that was really helpful was that you want to have a bank of quotes that are diverse in that some of them will be those sort of more common quotes that you see all the time. Ultimately, they're common for a reason. They're popular for a reason. You can usually use them in lots of different ways. They're sort of flexible like that, which is really helpful to have in an exam where you have to memorize quotes. It's good to make them ones that are flexible to be used for lots of different questions. But at the same time, to really show your knowledge, you want some quotes that aren't common. There are plenty of quotes out there that you're not going to find so much online, or they won't be spoken about in class, that are equally as good. They could perhaps be even more sort of versatile, or they could just be really strong evidence that you can use for particular questions. So you can find those when you read the whole text. Having a solid understanding of the author's message and style, being able to identify structural evidence alongside the aesthetic evidence, and much more as well. One of them is just confidence. Reading the whole text is going to give you a whole bunch more confidence. And I mentioned earlier as well that I suggest reading the book more than once too. For my external exam, I read Macbeth 3 times. So you can think of it as the first time is just you getting your bearings. You're just getting through it with understanding things and what's happening in general. The second time is where you can think more about the actual quotes, understanding better in terms of the meaning. The first time round, it's probably pretty difficult to get straight to understanding what it all means, particularly with texts that are sort of older, that use complicated Old English language. So the first time round, you're just understanding what's happening, learning the story. The second time, you can think about building up your quote bank, building up your analytical kind of thoughts and understandings. And if you read it a third time, then that's even better as well. And you can just keep building on those quotes and that analytical understanding. Some more things. So annotations. When you're reading the text, so you could have, depending on your school and your sort of situation, you may have a digital copy, which is helpful, or you may have a print copy. So obviously, if you've got a library kind of book, then you won't be able to annotate. But oftentimes you will find that you can find online versions of things, sort of PDF downloads. So if you can try and find those and have annotations of those. If you do have any kind of paper copy that allows you to write annotations and highlight things, then I definitely recommend you do that. You can highlight quotes. You can easily see repeating symbols and themes and settings. And you can note those down with tabs or color coding systems and stuff like that. You can have analysis in the margins ready to use later. So sometimes we have an idea that occurs to us when we sort of have an epiphany about what something may mean. Maybe if you're reading it as a class, which is something that we used to do at school, maybe your teacher may pause to explain something, and just writing that down straight away is very valuable. It's like I was saying earlier, if your teacher is going through a task sheet, writing down little things that they say that are helpful. Sometimes those things are really, really valuable when it comes to actually doing a task. Linking ideas that you've got noted down, and then important sections and dialogue and character development are easy to find. When you have a whole text that you've read, potentially hundreds of pages, you want things to be easy to find, so doing annotations is a great way of ensuring that. Class notes. So again, this sort of relates to that idea of anything that your teacher says, writing those things down, keeping track of different perspectives and opinions. You may have class discussions about what things mean, and different sort of analytical takes on different things. So you can note those things down in your class notes. It also promotes paying attention and participation when you take notes in class. It's forcing yourself to stay on task, to absorb what you're being told and write it down in your own words or in a summarized format. You can have your thesis ideas and your analysis and quotes all organized and formatted. And it keeps your work all in one place. Something that some students may not be familiar with is the idea of searching in a document. So on a PC, the shortcut is Control F, which brings up a search bar if you're in Word, in PDF, in Google Docs, those sorts of things. Just on a website, any of those things, Control F is going to bring up a search bar, and you can search for keywords. It's very, very helpful. I think I probably use it every time I'm on a device of any sort. And so making sure that you're formatting things in a really organized way, using your headings, and everything can help you then search for things later, and it saves you a whole bunch of time. So just one example of that is in your external exam, you may be wanting to remember the act and scene that certain quotes are from. And so just when you find a quote, also writing down where it was from as well is something that I recommend. Bringing all the detail that you can to begin with the first time round is great, so you don't have to go back later and figure things out. It's the same idea with referencing when you're doing in-text referencing for any kind of assignment. Okay, practice essays and analysis. So you can practice your timing. You can see this is how long I should be spending on this aspect. X number of minutes into the exam time, I should be up to this stage. You can really monitor yourself and keep yourself on track. You can practice your synthesis of information, your analysis techniques with word choice, all of your sort of analytical verbs you want to include. This communicates this suggests, implies, all of those analytical verbs. You can improve your handwriting as well. So, of course, you can practice your essays and doing analysis just on your laptop. And perhaps that's something that you can start off with. Like I was saying before, you start off with learning the skills of analytical writing, of essay writing, of understanding the text. You can start with your laptop then. But then when you get into those exam conditions practices, you can really work on your handwriting when you're doing that. Because ultimately, if the marker can't read what you've written, then no matter how good it is, it's not going to matter in the end. So building muscle memory. So exam writing and analysis is easier. So you have just an automatic understanding of this is what I need to do in my introduction. This is how I can link paragraphs. This is sort of a word bank of all the really great analytical verbs that I like to include. You can tweak to fit your confidence level and time restrictions and proximity to the exam. So you can do it in different ways, on a laptop, on paper, dot point essays, full essays, all those sorts of things depending on where you're at. And there's many more benefits as well. Practice plans. So reduces in-exam planning time, streamlines essay writing, allows for the practice of unseen questions. You can develop your logic flow, and it can be done quickly and repeatedly. So planning out how you would approach different questions, thinking about the 3 points you would make for your 3 different body paragraphs. All of those things are great time savers and great for confidence. Quote books or quote sort of documents or banks. This is something that I really used for year 12 because, like I said before, you need to remember quotes. That's a really tricky thing that you need to do for your external exam, memorizing quotes. So, and choosing the quotes to remember, of course, is tricky too. So, getting a document together with a whole bank of really good quotes, some, like I said, that are more common, and some that are a little bit more unique to really show the depth of your understanding. You can format this in a really good way to include some analysis as well. You can say a list of quotes down in one column in a table, and then across the top you could have all the different themes that appear, and in each box, if the theme is relevant for that quote, you can write a little note in there saying some sort of analytical point about why that quote is relevant to that theme. You can use these quote banks for your practice essays and your practice analysis, and you can keep on building on it as well. It keeps all of your evidence in one place. Having one searchable document is helpful. And you can use all of the class notes and all the practices that you've done to create this document as well. And yeah, that's the other thing, including the themes and the characters and the setting linked to the quote. So I would suggest don't just put the quote into your quote bank with nothing else. Like I said before, you could have that idea of themes listed and showing which quote relates to which theme. You can write little analytical notes to say this is what was actually happening when this quote was said, or this sort of event happened. Who actually said the quote and who they might be speaking to, or whatever the case may be.